This is Rice. This is Hard News Vegan. I am continuing with my my videos from my bicycle of New York City during COVID-19. And who would believe it, folks, that a disease, what is supposed to be a pandemic, like on the level of the Spanish flu of 1918, who would believe that it would just simply become political? There's just too much controversy about this disease. Would you not agree, folks? It's bizarre. It seems that, where is the truth about this? Because it seems it's divided right down the middle. We have what I'm going to call blue state people and red state people disagreeing. Okay. Red state people basically roll their eyes about COVID, shake their heads, and they say this shutdown is excessive. And the blue state people, they can't seem to get enough of it. Someone explain that to me. The blue state people, they cower in fear and comply slavishly. That's my adjective for it, to every pronouncement, rule, and regulation. They shelter in place, social distancing, face masks. They Purell till their hands are raw and red, okay? But what's funny is that these blue state people aren't suffering at all. Surprise, surprise, they're the white-collar people who are sheltering in place. They're quarantining themselves. They're all healthy people, but they are very obediently staying in their apartments, working from their telephones, okay? I mean, their computers from home. This is the new thing. I mean, no one would believe this if you told them to. Told this to them. And personally, my belief is that it's a media event. It's a media. It was created out of whole cloth, out of the newsrooms of the mainstream media. Okay, so the red state people, see, this just as a disease like any other. You take measures to protect the vulnerable, the old, and those with weak immune systems, and you allow everyone else to go about their lives. Red state people tend to be Trump people. The blue state people are these lunatic liberal who are never Trumpers, and they didn't quite get it. They didn't quite get Trump with Russia collusion, Russia. They didn't get Trump with impeachment. Nobody talks about those things anymore. And so they thought maybe they'll just crash the entire economy, and maybe that'll get Trump. So the blue state people, they distinguish themselves basically in one way, and that is to a man. They are all living on a steady diet of mainstream media, which is to say all of the media, because 90% of all the media out there is the mainstream media, and it speaks with one voice. And basically, I believe this is just algorithms. This is a black op psychological operation. This is all made up. I seriously believe it. And what you can do is take any flu season and focus in with real tight shots there's tragedy with every single flu season, every single year. And what they've done is they've taken every tragedy they can find and they focus in real close and they blow up, they make it into a big news story that goes coast to coast. And they're very good at these things by now. They, starting with all these people who investigated the human mind, and now we have computer algorithms that work sort of like Pavlov's dog, B.F. Skinner kind of mind control, social engineering, and these blue state people, these Democrat governors, have decided they're going to, force everybody to commit suicide, to crash the economy. To me, it's like Jim Jones down in Guyana, back when, look that up, he got hundreds, even thousands of people to drink a poison-laced Kool-Aid in the jungles of Guyana and South America, and just bizarre. The mainstream media, it's a constant drumbeat of fear, COVID-19, gonna get you, gonna get you. So what you see here, I just want to jump over to, is you can see that we're in Times Square and Theater District. And the Theater District could very well be like no more. They managed to convince New Yorkers to basically shut down this amazing city. The museums are closed, restaurants closed, theaters closed, sporting events are closed. Did I say restaurants are closed? Everything that hotels are closed. Everything that would bring anybody from out of town to come to this amazing city to enjoy the best of the best is gone, people. What we have from the mainstream media is basically a hypnotic spell that has been put over the land through absolute fear. I almost was succumbed to this, where I was, sterilizing and sanitizing everything I touched, and buying N95 masks, and being very frightened of being around young people as I was. This is madness. The shutdown has quarantined healthy people. Retail shops forced to shut down. So-called non-essential workers are sheltering in their apartments. This is madness. And you can see from my video here that everything is shut down in the entire city of New York. Not utterly insane, just insane. And who determined all this? A bunch of bureaucrats, and the state determines who's essential, who is not. Now, who are these people? Let me see. So the thing is, I wrote a few notes. How to destroy an economy and an entire civilization. And what's strange is how compliant people are. New Yorkers are, they're a bunch of left-wing lunatics, excuse the expression, I'm sorry, folks. They're slavishly obedient to this, and as the bureaucrats and politicians rolled out the directives, and they came out like a piecemeal, and some of them came out like sort of a little bit too late, so that the disease had already kind of taken hold and done damage. So, but New Yorkers have abided dutifully, and I actually would have thought differently. Back in January, when I heard that, let's say, 10 cities the size of New York City in China had shut down to fight this COVID-19, I thought, oh my God, it's going to come to New York, And I thought to myself, New Yorkers are not going to comply. Well, I was wrong. New Yorkers have complied, like fools who've been convinced to commit suicide because this city has committed suicide. There's utter carnage at the level of business. The business could very well not come back. We're hearing about bankruptcies. We're hearing about insane unemployment levels. The cure has been worse than the disease, 100 times worse. So I believe that ultimately this has been, there are many, what do you call, agendas. And there's there's shadowy people with agendas. That's what's going on here. We don't know who these people are who have convinced the mouthpieces on television and our politicians. They're just like one man sitting up there, Andy Cuomo. Who is this guy? And who he's just a puppet on a string to shadowy people who are directing this suicide. They want the Western civilization to collapse and fall. So as for it was a cover, I believe. It was a cover for an economy that had gone already belly up. It had gone. It started in 1971 when Nixon and the Treasury Secretary Connolly detached the U.S. dollar from the gold standard. That's when it really began, and there was nothing to anchor any of the money supply or anything, and debt has gotten out of control. I have to actually stop myself all the time these days from trying to predict the markets. The markets do not move with fundamentals. The markets, on Wall Street and all of the financialization of the economy, it has become a casino, here in America. Markets of all kinds are manipulated by the government, by the Federal Reserve. It's truly criminal and flies in the face of everything America is supposed to stand for. The most glaring, all-encompassing example is how the Fed, now part and parcel of the United States government, they work together, they are like co-conspirators to allow a monopoly, and monopolies are the most dangerous thing in the world, and monopolies are everywhere. And that's why our entire Western civilization is falling. If you look at these pictures, as you're kind of looking here, you see everything shut down, and you just see scaffolding and just everything's decrepit. Glory days, these are not. I'll put it that way. The main thing that the Fed and the government in cahoots are doing is driving down interest rates. And you say, well, why are they doing that? And they never tell you why. They say maybe the markets are manipulated, this and that. It's all about they drive down the value of precious metals, and they drive down interest rates, right? And it's all for, the main reason is to boost the value of the dollar, because the dollar is turning into, seriously, a piece of worthless paper. And you have to have a dollar that the world wants and needs to do business with, because the United States, Americans, essentially for the last, since the petrodollar, we've basically handed off paper rectangles called U.S. dollars, and we've gotten amazing goods, manufactured goods from all around the world. Now that can't last. That can't last. And right now, the Fed and everybody is doing everything to destroy the dollar with all of these handouts, these massive multi-trillion-dollar injections of liquidity into the markets. But it's all about boosting the dollar. So the federal government and the Fed, with all of its gargantuan power of decrees, laws, and don't forget the ability to print money with impunity to flood the economy however it pleases them with counterfeit liquidity. And they print this money out of thin air. I mean, what would you do, people, if you could just print money to do anything you wanted? And what they basically have been doing is they have every physical or material thing they could ever want. What they want now is power, and what they do is they're handing off money to everyone, currency, it's not money. They're handing out currency to the tune of trillions. They are bringing in everyday people into this scheme, and they want everybody to be absolutely dependent on them. And when you start being the sugar daddy to the country, everybody loves you and will keep you in control. And you will lose your control. You will lose your autonomy. You will lose your liberty. After the 2008 Great Recession, quote unquote, the Fed engineered the greatest wealth transfer in the history in history, handing out near zero interest rate loans to rich cronies, which only serve to bolster corporate stock prices. For years, lucky corporate recipients of the zero interest rate policy largesse bought back their own stock. I mean, a practice that should be, or used to be illegal, depending on who you ask, a practice that caused the stock market and in general, and certain stocks in particular, to soar. The period of time during the first 3 years of the Trump presidency was notorious. We saw it just go up, and and the lunatic liberals, they were watching, Trump at his Trump rallies, and he was bragging about the stock market and everything. It was driving them crazy. They couldn't have it. It just irked them to the hilt, and I believe that this whole COVID thing is a scam. It's a plandemic. It's a joke, and I can't believe that people fell for it. It scares me. I mean, I personally, Pamela Rice, I am not in any jeopardy at the moment at all. I'm comfortable. I'm fine. This COVID did not hurt me, but man is not an island, people. Pam is not an island, and all I see is death and destruction and complete annihilation, carnage, whatever you want to say. But anyway, anyone invested in the FANG stocks, that's at FAANG, and that stands for Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. If you were in those stocks throughout these 3 Trump years that ended, in January 2020, with COVID beginning, you got fabulous returns. Asset bubbles were everywhere, as were leveraged loans of every stripe. Massive debt has been everywhere and is everywhere, and bankruptcies and leveraged debt. I mean, people. And this manipulation of interest rates is insane. If the interest rates go up even 25 basis points or something, like happened at the end of 2018, I mean, it's carnage. And it's all about keeping that stock market high, because so many investments are tied to the stock market, in particular pensions. Okay, a lot of pensions are just strictly tied to the stock market, which is the worst thing for a pension, because pensions, you can't be in risky investments, and stocks are always risky investments, but they're the only thing that get any yield. There's a lot of people chasing yield. So, I mean, I go on and on. I'm getting myself, in a tizzy. So what do we have? All these kind of debts. We have corporate debt, auto loan debt, credit card debt, municipal debt, student loan debt. We've got, but the biggest of all is federal government debt, to the tune of many trillions of dollars. We're up at 26 trillion and up about 6 trillion since this started. And right now it is, what is the date? May 27th, 2020. It is a Wednesday. Okay, this footage was done, about a week ago. Anyway, so the worst debt of all is federal, and the Federal Reserve, its balance sheet is going up to 10 trillion soon, and some people say it's just the sky's the limit. Let's say, what would you do if you could stack up trillions in debt, if you could simply print money out of thin air? What would you do? The Fed can and does. Okay, a few more comments. Now, I want to just reiterate, maybe I've said this in other videos like this, but a market economy is exquisitely beautiful, is a beautiful thing. Of course, the word capitalism has gotten a bad name, which is more than too bad. I was speaking with a person, I'm just going to say that, who claims to be a Trotskyite socialist. Okay, and I visited her home, and I saw these exquisite lighting that she had in her kitchen. It was just unique, and it was artistic, and it was just beautiful. And I says, well, dear friend, where do you think this comes from? You couldn't get this in a socialist world. You'd have like 2 kinds of lamps. That's it. You wouldn't have anything that was exquisite like this. That only comes when people start businesses because they know that there is an infrastructure and a legal system around them and an economic system around them that allows them to have freedom and make a profit. God forbid they make a profit. Oh my God, these terrible people trying to make a friggin' profit. I tell you, socialism. Anyway, I run a street level retail store, and I see the beauty of a market system. And two things keep our business strong. And it's sort of counterintuitive at first when you think about it. My partner and I, we eat our own mistakes. If we buy too much of one product and it doesn't sell and we have to take a loss and we have to eat it, our mistake, we can't really call up the government and say, oh my God, we made a mistake. Can we get a handout from the government? No, we can't do that. And the other thing is we have to make a profit, unlike companies like some of these FANG stocks where they don't have to, they can drive down the price and drive all their competition out of business because they have this influx of revenue coming from people buying their stock. Or their stock price just going up. They don't have to worry about making a profit, not like I do with my street level business. But you know what? It keeps my business strong. I have to make a profit and I have to eat my mistakes. This is accountability. This is called skin in the game. And if ever, look at our government officials. They don't have any skin in the game. They just walk away from complete carnage, which is what they're going to do with this COVID. In 6 months from now, it's going to be complete, it's going to be like the whole city's as if it were razed to the ground. It's just burned to a crisp. It's gone. Everything about New York is going to be gone. It's going to turn right back into what we saw in the 70s. Anyway, I better start wrapping this up. Today the government has poked its nose into many industries, dumping helicopter money everywhere. It's skewed market prices to the point no one can gauge the strength or weakness of any company or industry by reading the numbers: stock price, PE ratio, debt burden, management practices. It doesn't matter. You can screw up. Look at these zombie companies like WeWork, bailed out. Hertz is in deep trouble right now. Hertz is in bankruptcy. The great company Hertz, been in business over 100 years. At every airport, they are in bankruptcy, people. And last I heard, the Federal Reserve was buying their stock. This is an outrage. This is a total outrage. And the thing is, American people don't understand economics at all. And the people who do, they're making so much money in this horrible system that's set up that they're mum. They don't talk about the dangers. And it's, this COVID is the death blow. America has Trump was a little bit right when he talked about how strong our economy was. You needed a real sledgehammer to bring down America, but this was it. All you have to do is tell people not to touch each other, that everything around you is contaminated. You have people wearing a mask, which is tantamount to wearing a hijab, or maybe just something that prevents you from speaking. You don't have to worry about the hoi polloi anymore if they're imprisoned in their apartment, and even better if they did it voluntarily, that they committed their own suicide. You can just walk away and say, well, they did it. I told them to go shelter in place, which a shelter in place is a prison term. Oh God. No, it's not a prison term. It's when you have a shooter, on the loose. Okay, which basically, who's our shooter? Andy Cuomo. That's our guy who is our serial killer right here. So we don't have any price discovery. If you don't have price discovery, and like I say, you can't read the numbers when you watch the financial, read the financial press and watch programs about American economy. And Fed policies have been an unmitigated total disaster. They painted themselves into a corner. This is cover. The COVID is a cover. In fact, that could be the next bumper sticker, although no one would understand it. COVID is the cover for the Fed. The Fed destroyed America. In fact, 100 warning signs were apparent in late last year, 2019. The most glaring was the liquidity injections of the Fed's so-called repo market. The Fed was lending billions of dollars to entities in major trouble on a daily basis, and we don't know who these people were, but they were in deep trouble, and there was huge liquidity on the daily, like $60 billion going in and helping out companies. They were supposed to pay it in the morning, but it was perpetual. I don't understand it that well, but it was explained to me as being on the level of $1 trillion having to go to the, $1 trillion interest being so hard up for cash as having to go to the proverbial pawn shop to pay the rent. So who was it? Was it Deutsche Bank? Was it J.P. Morgan Chase Bank? It was some big, gigantic, entity that needed these injections. So everybody was looking at that. And the other thing was another glaring precursor to a market crash is an inverted yield curve. Search Google about inverted yield curve. So search that and search the repo market. News stories back around, I think it started in September last year, but just look in October, November, repo market. So the economic numbers these days are absolutely frightening. The unemployment, we're like at 50. I mean, the real economic the real unemployment figures are up there at like 50 million in America due to this COVID. Not this isn't cute, the whole thing. This is new people going for relief from the government. And just a few days, as I read this, a few days after Memorial Day 2020, this mess of catastrophic government policies is still playing out. I mean, we haven't seen the end of this. To listen to economic news is paramount to water torture these days. Do you value your mental health, or do you want to slide into a funk the size of the Grand Canyon? I'm being very dramatic here. But going to wrap this up. Again, thank you for listening. Rate, share, comment, and subscribe.